Hey, welcome to the Mashcast, episode 11, I think now. I'm Kenny, and I'm joined solo today by Charlie. What's up, Charlie?
What's going on?
Things look a little different this week, huh?
No, Billy's here as usual,
Yeah,
just
in our
trapped in
hearts.
a Game Boy.
So I've got this sick setup here that I'm going to play Legend of the River King during the show. And we've got a live feed on my Game Boy here.
Yeah, I don't see, that must be a really small camera. Where
You
got that set up?
I've been reading Naruto, and Gaara has the ability to make this little sand eye, and so it's kind of like back here.
Oh, okay.
You can't see it,
Okay.
and then it's zooming in, and it's moving all around. It can even see through my head. So it's pretty advanced tech. So we're gonna play Legend of the River King, and we're gonna press start now. All right.
Whoa.
Now I'm gonna move it down here, and I'm not even gonna. It's gonna seem weird. I'm not even gonna look at my Game Boy while I play. I just know this game so well. So we're gonna play here. So Charlie, there's some news this week, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's more important than River King, but yeah, there's some news.
All right.
I had a couple things from, I don't remember if it was last week or a couple weeks ago, but there's some follow-ups to some past news stories we've had. First one was, so Billy Mitchell, we talked about his crazy shenanigans a while ago.
Yeah.
And he popped up again recently because even though his own litigation process is still ongoing, he decided to file another slap suit against a YouTuber who was bringing up ideas about Guinness World Records not really being a reliant arbitrator for speedruns and gaming news and records. So he filed $150,000 compensatory damages and
So he's
request
suing.
for an apology for a YouTuber that
So he's
brought
suing
up some action against him. Yeah.
So he's suing a YouTuber for saying that Guinness World Records don't matter. Like, is that the gist of it?
That was the brunt of his article, but of his video, but it also went over a little bit. It didn't really delve too deeply, other than saying that Billy's part of this issue and he's a cheater.
Yeah.
Basically, he just said Billy's a cheater,
Okay.
and now he's getting sued.
Okay. So
yeah.
that's dumb.
So I'm just saying, do we have to get worried about being sued now?
Well, if I say Billy's a cheater, that could mean our Billy. Right. So I can say it all day long.
I don't know who I was talking about last time.
Yeah.
It could have been Eddie Bill.
Yeah. When you said Billy Mitchell, you said Billy, Mitchell. You were talking about two guys, Billy, and another guy, Mitch, and so who knows?
We've never shown Mitch on screen, but longtime friend.
Yeah, he's the producer of the show, really. He's always off screen. He does all the camera work for us and all the special effects.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was the guy who got your camera set up there, right?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
All
he
right.
helped me.
Well,
He helped me read Naruto. And how do I open this fridge? So, anyways, Charlie, I'm sorry. This is a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be.
Oh yeah, you're a little delayed for me, so I can't really help you out unless you're incredibly stuck. But it's looking good though. It's looking good. Never played River King, so this is some interesting insight to unknown Game Boy game for me.
You fight a bear in this game.
Okay, I'm interested. Is that like the climax or just the intro?
I don't
ramps
remember.
up from there.
I haven't played this game since maybe elementary school.
Nice. What got you interested in bringing this up?
Well, Nintendo's got these like Switch online games or whatever, and I really want them to just do Game Boy games on there already. But honestly, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing in this. So I might switch out cartridges and play a different game. Maybe.
No, I mean it's great to just ramble around a city and have no idea what you're doing. That's what most Game Boy games
Yeah,
were.
I guess.
Speaking of no idea what's going on.
Yeah, right. Okay, sure.
Another story we had from last week was about the U.S. Army esports team.
Oh, yeah. There's some follow-up on that, huh?
Yeah, there's a partial correction, partial follow-up. So last time I got a bit sensationalist. Not a typical thing to happen at all. But I implied the only reason that the Army esports Twitch page was taking a break was because of people in chat being silenced about war crimes. It's also possible that it was because they were linking a free giveaway that just redirected to the Army recruitment page with no actual information on how to obtain or enter said giveaway. So, multiple questionable practices on their part. But the other interesting part about this was the government actually brought up a bill to try and prevent the Army from using this sort of social media to recruit people.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it was immediately shot down.
Yeah, because they recruit everywhere. There's no avoiding it.
Yeah. I saw the article I linked was saying something like 13,000 recruitment applications were done.
Because of Twitch?
I don't know if it was Twitch or just the esports team in general. I think it was just over their esports team in general, so that might include like Twitter, other social media applications, but it must be effective enough for them to not worry about it. So
yeah, I'm
crazy stuff happened.
Yeah, I'm just I'm still glad that we don't have to worry about this. How do I fish? There we go. Okay.
What do you think you're gonna catch?
Maybe some trout.
Okay. Is there actual fish diversity? Is this like a Harvest Moon or whatever?
Yeah, and there's also like a Tamagotchi thing where you can like raise fish.
Okay, that's some pretty good looking landscape for a Game Boy game, I gotta say.
Pretty messy, yeah.
I mean, just the way they're trying to make the river effect, it's not bad.
Okay, I gotta find a better fishing spot.
Why you do that, I can bring up the fact that the PS5 outer white faceplates are supposedly swappable.
Oh, good. So it won't look like awful.
Well, so at the very least, you can try to not make them look awful. So the implication would be that you could get a third-party skin or something. I think there was a site that did something similar for the PS4, but nobody ever used it because it would be a bit more work involved, I think.
Yeah, so this is being designed in this case. Well, I'm fighting a crow.
Okay, you gotta give me a few minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Can I not?
Man.
All right.
I think you're doing great. Keep it up.
Thanks. I might have to switch games.
River King is
I'm about to die.
tough game, apparently. Jeez. This crow does not want you to leave.
No, he doesn't.
He's out for blood. Okay. Well,
I don't know how to play this game. I don't have the instruction manual. You know, that's pivotal. For these types of games.
It is. Speaking of games,
So okay, so hold on. So
yeah,
talk to me some more about the faceplates here, Charlie.
faceplate. I mean, there's not much else to say. I don't think it's not an official announcement or anything yet. It's just from pictures from manufacturing facilities showing the faceplates are easily removable, just with some latches that you can pull out. So nothing officially announced from Sony, but it's basically a given that there will be a third party that'll let you have custom plates.
I hope so. That'd be awesome. Because then I could make it be like a navy blue or something cool like that. Or I could just make a Dragon Ball one.
Yeah, you could go with. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had an orange console. I know there was like GameCube variant, but
So Charlie, let's pause again. I see you taking a sip of water. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pause the game, okay? And
okay.
Charlie, I do believe it is time for some max level snacks. Now, hold on.
Water's my only snack.
I'm waiting on our producer here to kind of move some stuff on the.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Mitch. All right. So I went to Mitsuha again. I had to go in the office this week, and on my way back, I stopped by Mitsuha, and I got, you might remember this. You can find this stuff in Kamurocho, Charlie.
I could.
Yeah. And then the Yakuza games. Yakuza. So, now, I won't lie, I've had this before, but I don't remember what it tastes like. So, that's coffee.
Whoa.
Now, also, last time I said that they had a bunch of like $1 Cokes. Well, this time they had a bunch of $1 Meiji milk chocolate. And it says here, a delicious balance of cocoa and milk.
Okay.
So let's see.
So not dark chocolate, just regular.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what the balance is because dark chocolate has milk in it too. So gotta, it's fancy. I have to take the plastic off. Fancy for $1. What $1 will buy you in Japan? 100 yen.
100 yen, they say. Yeah.
Give or take a financial crisis. So,
I mean, I don't know what it's like now.
yeah. So it's not as favorable as it used to be. Let's say. So they got these little pieces. Okay. So let's do the test here. And okay. Let me picture Hershey chocolate in my mind taste palette, so I know what to compare it against. Okay, now let me drink some mind wine and cleanse the palate. Okay. Hold on, let me get some ASMR here for
Yeah, get a little closer to the mic there. You can really hear that saliva.
It just tastes like normal Easter candy to me.
Well, I
Easter.
don't know how to follow that up. Easter.
To me,
Japan celebrate Easter?
I don't think so. I mean, they might. I don't know. They celebrate Christmas.
Yeah.
But I think they just celebrate what I consider to be the fun stuff of Christmas.
That's true.
So I don't know. I don't think there's necessarily anything fun about Easter other than the mediocre chocolate you can buy.
Does it go good with that coffee?
Hey, that's Charlie.
No.
Usually I rely on Mitch for those suggestions, but we might have to get rid of Mitch. I heard he's a cheater.
Definitely some questionable editing choices. That's why we had to get rid of our Volume 1 Mashcast season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Charlie, that's chocolate and coffee.
Okay. Well,
tell you.
Now we know.
I already drank this, but I did want to talk about it because this stuff I thought was hella good. I also picked this up, UCC coffee. Now, full disclosure, Charlie, it has sugar in it. And I say that because normally I'm not a fan of sugar in coffee. This was
okay.
This was good. It's good. I liked it. It wasn't too sweet, and that's the thing I like about a lot of Japanese food is that they're sweet and they're salty, sometimes both, but never too much. Right? They have a much better understanding of how to give you flavor, but without going overboard. Like what I would call the Cheeto effect. Right? Like Cheeto is such like a condensed punch to the mouth of cheddar flavor, or not even cheddar, of whatever you would call that distinct Cheeto flavor, but it's so strong, you know. And Japanese snacks don't really have that issue, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, they have. If you get into the wasabi area, they can get some spicy punch there.
Now,
yeah.
I've been so I also have this snack here. I wasn't gonna. I've already tried this before. I also have this.
How many snacks you got in back there?
This is the last one, I promise. This is these are just like hot rice crackers, right? But they say extra hot, and let me tell you, Charlie, these are not extra hot. Okay, these are so right, like wasabi heat, which I don't think this even has any wasabi in it, but wasabi heat to me always kind of gets into my nasal cavity more so than it does sets my mouth on fire. And for me, wasabi is, I like it, but I'm easily overwhelmed by it, and I don't necessarily care for the way that it cleans out my nostrils. So
I love a good nostril cleaning.
Yeah,
especially for my snacks. It's just an added bonus.
See, I much more prefer like ghost pepper and having my mouth aflame because it makes me feel alive. And this stuff is good.
Whatever works.
This stuff's good because for me, it's not. This is, wasabi is not the kind of heat that I can really partake in, and this is just the right level, even though it doesn't even have wasabi in it. So I think this is all. See, this says red pepper, but I don't think it affects me the same way that. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what the heat is coming from in here, but
doesn't have a Scoville rating on it.
Well, you have to convert it into Japanese Scovilus.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure on the conversion units there, Charlie. So we'll save that for another episode. Do you have any snacks for us other than that delicious water that you're drinking?
No, it's filtered straight from the tap.
Yeah.
Quality.
And it has a nice finish.
I just down it so fast. I don't really have an aftertaste.
So, Charlie, how does its finish compare to Superhot's?
Okay. So I was going to save that for later, but we can talk about that now. Very questionable. I like that game for the most part, but man, that just goes off the rails.
In what way?
So the whole idea of that game, of Superhot Mind Control Delete, I should say, is that you're trying to just get more out of the Superhot story.
Okay.
And the game's constantly telling you, there's nothing else here, man. Just leave it alone. Go about your day. So it's about addiction.
Okay.
To finding more conspiracy theory Superhot lore when there isn't really any. And what ends up happening is throughout the game you get a variety of mod powers to like swap bodies with different people or do a dash charge at them, that sort of thing. And by the end you gotta give up all those powers. And then they take it a step further and they try to make you give up all your basic powers. So I'm talking about like being able to jump or punch or shoot or use your mouse to look around the screen at all. It took me way too long to figure out that I was just supposed to give up and not actually try to get through that on skill.
So the game doesn't have like a proper ending?
No, it does. Okay, bear with me.
Okay, I'm bearing.
So that part I was fine with. So that's interesting. But they take it even further to the point where they're just constantly trying to bog you down to the point of the game is too unwilling to let you find anything else out.
Okay.
So they take all your powers away, they force you to give up, you lose control, and you have to go through the same hallway cutscene you've seen like 5 times because that's the only thing they put in the game for story. But it's basically just another point of addiction that you have no control anymore. You've lost yourself to the game. And then like the game crashes and you're stuck in like some ASCII-esque 8-bit area. But before that, you gotta press the E key for super and hot. Just repeat super and hot, because that's their gimmick. Is you gotta play the super hot message over and over again for like 10 minutes.
Okay, so let's. Okay, you
And
gotta
then,
take me a step back here. What is
yeah,
the
so
first
there's
game about?
a common functionality of Superhot is at the end of every level, it's just repeating the Superhot phrase. Super hot.
Yeah.
Yes. So I don't think we have time to go over.
All right, the lore's that
basically, it's just about government conspiracy and Illuminati and hacking and that sort of thing. Not really that deep of a message, but you could read more into it if you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea was just people being addicted to computer databases. So you go through all this one dealing with more of that addiction, and the Superhot company that's trying to brainwash people in the first game is just trying to tell you in this one that no, you can't. There's nothing else. You've ended it already. But by the end, even though you've tried to find so much more, they're slowly brainwashing you again, in effect, by making you give up and just repeat that same message for 10 minutes. Then you get sent to an ASCII world where you gotta follow a line around till you get to a point on the screen
I'm having trouble
you can try to
visualizing this.
recover your data. I couldn't describe it properly if I wanted to. So it's like just think of, I don't know, if you haven't played like or seen screenshots of like a really old text-based adventure where you're just like a two-bit character, black on white, with a bunch of screen distortion to look like there's fields of grass around you or something. That's all it is. You walk around that area for like 5 minutes until you find a point where you could try to recover your data, and it pops up a timer. Luckily, when I played it, it was limited down to 2.5 hours, but it was originally 8 that you have to wait with the game running to be able to restart the game.
I like that. I like that level of trolling.
See, they originally were going to say it was going to be 24, according to their Twitter, but they conveniently lowered it down to 8 and then 2.5 hours.
So what happens after the 8 hours?
I mean, you get some bonus levels, but that's it. The credits are sort of playing in that loading bar menu.
Does this in any way set up for a sequel?
I mean, this was the sequel, kind of. I don't think they're doing any more after this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it's just wild to me because what other game does something like that? Just forces you to look at a screen for 2.5 hours. Like, not even just wait 2.5 hours and load the game up again. You have to keep it running. So it's literally wasting computer power and electricity for a message.
I think this game is wasting electricity.
So I will say the core gameplay is still pretty fun,
Mm-hmm.
but they went off the rails. Not as much as another game, which we'll get to later, but uh,
I'm done with this stupid game, Charlie.
okay.
Okay, here, I'm gonna turn my Game Boy off here. Let me go
Was
get another
hoping
cartridge.
for something interesting, but
Yeah,
okay.
let me go get another cartridge. Let me play something that doesn't require as much thinking. So,
I really wanted to see that bear.
well,
You hyped
I
it
couldn't
up
even
so
find any
much.
fish. So I'm thinking, Super Mario Land 2. I think. Let me pull my cartridge out here.
Okay. Never played that game.
Let me load it up. All right, Super Mario Land 2. Load it up. 6 golden coins on my Game Boy here. Charlie, what's the next story here?
Oh,
this is quite the episode.
This is. I'm just so fascinated to find out more Mario lore that I don't know of. I didn't know that there were ants in Mario. Just kidding. I'm pretty sure there have been ants in other games. So Sekiro is getting an update.
Okay.
This fall. Surprising because the game came out almost a year and a half ago. So, and it didn't have any updates.
Has it really been that long?
These. Yeah, it was last year, early last year. And it's basically just a boss rush, an ability to fight bosses again, and some skins. But to me, that signifies that it's probably going to get a port to next gen, because why would you wait that long to do something so minimal? Which is fine with me, because that is a gorgeous looking game, and I want more.
What do you
more
think?
Sekiro.
So, I mean, that game already ran in 60 frames per second, right? At 1080, or?
On PC it did.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about consoles, but you got to bump that up to 4K, man. I'm sure, all the games seem to be able to do 4K 60 on next gen, unless you're really pushing ray tracing, I guess.
See, I don't. Why isn't my sound on my Game Boy working? There we go. Okay.
I was gonna say something, but those cartridges die out all the time.
Yeah,
that's what's going on. Maybe do you have the scroll wheel raised up on the side?
No, I took care of it.
Okay.
You see, it's
Okay.
I'm all good.
Okay.
It's all yeah. It's actually you scroll down. So.
You could be right. I haven't held a Game Boy in a decade, so.
How do I play this game? Oh, okay.
You asking how to play Mario?
Yeah.
Whoa. We got to take a step back there. I don't know if I have time to explain that on stream. What I do have time to explain is that Halo multiplayer is going to be free to play and possibly up to 120 FPS, according to Microsoft.
But who's going to be able to play it at that,
I mean, I don't know if 120 FPS is going to be available on PC, or if that's just the Series X thing. They didn't really clarify.
Well, but I mean, like, you would think the only people who could play it at 120 frames per second are the PC people.
Well, they've said the Series X can do up to 120 FPS inherently. Now, how many people are going to have TVs that can do that? I don't know. And that might also mean just 120 at 1440p or something like that. That might not be true 4K. They haven't really said any of that. We still know nothing because all these companies are being so terribly slow about providing all this information. But I think the more interesting thing is that it's also free to play, so it's going to be seemingly a game as a service instead of your more traditional Halo.
So what do you think What do you think that looks like then? What would games as a service Halo look like?
It's a very good question.
Well, first of all, we have to identify what do games as a service look like, because I don't play any.
So, okay, that's a very fair question. I mean, most of them are either hero class shooters like Overwatch, where I guess games as a service doesn't inherently mean it's free to play. You can still have a base price and then have it's just ongoing content, basically. Something that's designed to have multiple seasons with updated maps and guns and character changes and that sort of thing. Like, I would probably say Street Fighter V from other fighting games like that are a games as a service. It's just the idea of serving you more content over multiple years. But generally, what you see that as now, though, is either a battle royale or a class shooter. So with Halo, I don't know how they'd really take that. Because I haven't really said about the multiplayer. I think a lot of people were assuming there'd be some battle royale mode. But I could easily see them just doing like a horde mode as well, adding different maps for that. Or I guess really just maps in general, like filtering in the Master Chief Collection areas and enemies into this game. Yeah, I don't really know. Halo to me is a single player experience with some local co-op.
Yeah, did you play those games with co-op?
Yeah, and I played 1, 3, ODST. I think that's about it. But those to me were all just co-op experiences, or maybe some arena PvP. But nothing to this scale. I don't know what modern Halo even looks like to be able to give you an answer to that about where they'd be going. But you said you were interested in Halo last week. Are you still interested with this news?
I'm not interested in this because I'm not going to play. I don't play multiplayer games. So, yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, they're still going to have that single player. I assume it's going to be an actual purchase, though.
Yeah, that's not free.
That was free. Yeah. But you can get that on PC. Halo usually is pretty well optimized to run on a variety of PCs, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Some good jumping you're doing there.
No, I'm not. This is not good. Yeah, I wonder if in Mario Land 3, if I hit select, if I hit select on my Game Boy 16 times.
Is that a thing? I did not know that.
There was in Super Mario Land 3, which is Wario Land. There was a way that if you paused and hit select 16 times or something like that, then you could go and you could manipulate the how many lives you had. I think you could change your hat. You could do all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
I don't think it's working on my copy here of Super Mario Land 2. I'm pressing select a whole bunch and it's not doing anything. So, gosh. This game was seriously underrated. I would love a remake of this game.
We've been hearing about those Mario remaster rumors.
Yeah?
Maybe they'll throw this in. But I doubt it.
I know last week we talked a little bit about all the leaks, Charlie, but did you have a chance to look at any of that kind of stuff?
I mean, just some basic overhead stuff, like the humans being in Star Fox and
human,
I guess, and the Luigi voice clips in Mario 64.
Yeah,
I guess I did see they were supposedly trying to make a DOS version of Windows run in the Super NES. I don't know how that would have worked.
Oh, I didn't see that.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do I get out of here?
think this is just speculation at this point, but I think it might have been potentially something about, being a tax break for companies if you're trying to do any sort of Microsoft services through a non-dedicated computer device. Something like that. I don't know. There's some wild rumors about what could have been going on there. But
now, how do you feel? Obviously, all the stuff that's coming out is awesome. Just to kind of Nintendo's a very private company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so just to kind of be able to get a glimpse of kind of what's going on behind the scenes, but right, this is all stolen information, right? There's no two ways about it. Somebody stole all of this stuff. So how do you feel? Do you feel awkward about like celebrating this stuff, knowing that kind of like the dubious circumstances in which it was? Come on, the dubious circumstances in which it was obtained.
Yeah, I mean it's never good that something like that happens. Wouldn't want personal projects of mine to be leaked like that if there were anything of that scale and notoriety. But at the same time, they were probably never going to talk about any of this stuff at any point. So
yeah, I know. Like with all of the, I have all 4 of the Zelda books that they put out through Dark Horse and whatnot, but none of them have covered like about the. Did you see the alternate Adventure of Link or sprites or something? It was some Link sprites that were like really advanced that we just never saw the light of day. Yeah, and so I think I posted them in Discord actually, but it's like if come on, one up. If we didn't see that stuff in those books, we were never gonna see it.
Well, I guess that makes me wonder, like, they obviously got to try to sell another one of those historical books in 20 years or whatever when the next big Zelda anniversary would be. Do you think they, like, save some of that just to dole out over time?
I don't know. I think Nintendo has a lot of stuff that they were just never going to show.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, there's stuff in Super Mario World of, like, there's, like, a nude, like, a portly nude woman, and there's, like, stuff of Mario with wings, flying, there's all the Proto-Yoshi stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's Mario flipping the bird, so there's, like, so much stuff that I just think Nintendo is never gonna show us, and never intended to, so...
I guess the interesting thing is how much they've actually kept. I keep hearing about how, back when Konami was trying to redo Silent Hill 2 and 3, how they lost the source code for one of those games or something like that. You hear a bunch of stories about that, like preservation of old company game projects just isn't kept up. So at least Nintendo seems to be preserving their stuff, even if they were never going to show it.
And it's really cool, like, getting to see the exact dates when Mario 64 entered and ended production. There's a lot of, like, really neat stuff in there. But, yeah, it's... okay, so, like... If I have to think about it, like, let's say this was Sega, right? And a bunch of stuff leaked about Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever. I don't know if I would be as, like, celebratory about this, because... Sega is not necessarily known for being extremely tight-lipped, right? Is that a fair assessment? Like, not to the level or degree in which Nintendo is.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. I mean, they let a whole game about the failing end of their company hardware division come out.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, it's definitely a bummer because someone could very easily be losing their job, their network administration team, or whoever let this slip through. I think at least some of the leaks were from source code from the IQ
Yeah, so
team.
from what I understand, everything that's been leaking is from that.
Okay. See, I guess that's what confuses me because IQ was only really for 64 games, right? So how did they have access to all these other areas?
So yeah, then that goes beyond my understanding of the
Yeah.
situation. Oh!
And I know Nintendo put out like a NVIDIA Shield or something that could run Wii games
Yeah.
in China, but I guess it's just interesting in how much they gave access to that team.
Well, and is this normal, right? Like,
You know?
how much stuff have, let's say I'm random developer A, and I'm working on okay, let's say I'm Retro, Charlie, and I'm working on Metroid Prime 4. How much, I can't get out of this stuff. How much does Nintendo give me access to as a second-party developer, right? So maybe this is not out of the norm. Some of the stuff that was in these leaks was Wii information, and like about how much like it costs to order a bunch of Wii discs and print games to them, and how like you basically had to order a minimum 450, so you really had to be sure that your game was going to sell before putting it out in physical. So I don't know how much I can't get up here. Oh, there we go. I don't know how much that normal devs are given access to.
Yeah, I mean that's always a question, especially when you're trying to let a third-party team make a game in your franchise. Like, how much do they actually give access to in terms of background research?
Mm-hmm.
Because you see some like developer videos about how they let us look at their plans of old Mario or something like that, but what do they really have access to? I don't know. So,
Well, yeah, and I mean, developers right now, they just know so much about the PlayStation 5, and they have so much that they have to be tight-lipped about. So is it just kind of normal to give developers all this information, just make them sign tons of NDAs, and then give them access to everything?
I mean, that's definitely the norm from what I've heard. I don't know how many people at those companies actually are given access to those kind of projects, but yeah, that's a good question. All we have is questions. I don't know. It's really interesting in a crazy year as 2020's been to see stuff like this.
Well, you know, one thing, Charlie, I never thought I would see in 2020 was complete nuclear disarmament.
I don't. What do you mean? We've still got plenty of nukes in the world.
No, Charlie. I mean Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, okay.
You added these news stories.
I'm playing it up. I'm playing it up. Mitch told me to play it up.
Oh, okay. I gotta talk
Another
to Mitch.
bad idea from Mitch.
Yeah. We might fire Mitch today.
So what's going on with MGS5?
Right, so the PlayStation 3 version, right? People forget that in 2015, games were still coming out for the PS3. One among which was Metal Gear Solid 5, which I have Ground Zeroes back here for the PS3, and actually ran pretty well on PS3. And of course, it's the second half of that experience also came out with Phantom Pain, but I've talked time and time again of I don't want to play my PS3, right? So, not a lot of people are playing Metal Gear Solid 5 PS3. So, let's walk this all back, right, Charlie? In this game, you can create nukes, and then you can invade other people's bases and take their nukes and disarm them. And what has happened is because enough people are no longer playing the PS3 version of MGS5, a team of people, I don't know if it was a team or just one person, but regardless, these saints were able to go in allegedly, apparently, and completely denuclearize the PS3 version of the game, triggering a cutscene for anyone who logs in the game. That will you could almost say this is the actual ending of Metal Gear Solid 5, which is kind of the true ending. Charlie, was in our hearts all along. We had to do it as a collective, which is why
I know it was. You could say it was the first Strand game.
Yes, the first Strand gameplay, and so they triggered that. And if anyone logged in, they were going to treat it this cutscene of Kaz and Snake. What's his name? Big Boss, talking about I don't know, just war and crap, and then Big Boss.
I think there was a quote of Obama in there too.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Man.
So Obama's canon in Metal Gear.
So no, Obama got the inspiration from Big Boss.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Not President Solidus.
I mean, perhaps Solidus got it through
I don't
genes.
know. Well, I guess how would that quote?
Actually, let's take a
I
look
guess
at
that quote
timeline.
that quote doesn't really make sense in the timeline. I don't know if it had a date attached to it, but
So George Sears, when was George Sears president?
I mean, either way, the Phantom Pain was way before that, right?
Yeah,
Unless he happened to be a multi-decade president somehow.
okay, so this wouldn't have worked because George Sears was still president in 2009, which is when MGS2 took place.
Interesting.
I think he was still president, right? Wasn't he?
You're asking me. I'm not the Metal Gear guy to know that.
Okay, yeah, it looks like maybe he was still president. I mean, he was definitely president during MGS1. Oh no, okay, he was removed from the presidency after MGS1.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Patriots this spoilers. Patriots removed him and then told the public that he had resigned. So it is possible then that Obama would have been placed in the presidency by the Patriots during the time of MGS2.
Whoa.
Now, how Obama relates to the quote, that's why we need Metal Gear Solid 6. Why we need Kojima and Konami to make up. And once Kojima's done making his sequel to Death Stranding, then we'll get to MGS6.
I see. Okay. It's just been a long con. Well, from what I saw, supposedly that Disarmament might not have been legit. Shocker. I'm pretty sure that happened at one point in the past.
It happened. It was a glitch on someone's end, like Konami, I think. It was a glitch that got sent out to all the PC users. Yeah.
Okay. But for this PS3 one that happened last week, the Metal Gear Japanese Twitter account posted a tweet saying they were reviewing that situation. And there was a Reddit thread about it, where the account that posted it had a trophy history listing, that timeline that didn't really match up. Like, he got the final nuke trophy earlier than some other trophies, and it was a fairly new account of like less than a month. So just very questionable whether or not it was a legitimate disarmament.
I know there's a website that monitors how many nukes exist in each version of the game. And the article I was reading about it said that at the time of disarmament, or I guess at the time that they were looking at it, there were 40 nukes again.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know.
Well, it could have been like he used the cheat tool or something to make the timer for disarmament go down quicker or something like
But he's
that.
playing on
Yeah.
the PS3 version.
Who knows? Yeah. Oh, I mean, PS3 has been known hackable for a while.
Really?
Yeah. So, I don't know. Ongoing story, I guess. Maybe
Yeah,
this is all just the ARG for Metal Gear 6.
Yeah. God, man. So you know, right, that like Kojima posted some stuff about what he and Shinkawa's like been his partner in crime for a long time. He posted like some concept art that they were working on for a next game.
Oh,
And
I did not.
it looked in there like there was something. I might misremember this, but it's something to the effect of it was like from Bridges, implying that maybe we're looking at some sort of another game. And Kojima has kind of talked about how he wants to maybe set more games in the universe of Death Stranding, or how that's a possibility. So.
Oh, okay. Okay. He's gonna do like M. Night Shyamalan-esque glass universe.
You know, I mean,
We'll find out at whatever his next horror project is that Sam was somehow involved.
if I'm gonna make a sequel, so okay, Death Stranding spoilers. If I'm going to make a sequel to Death Stranding, I feel like one of the coolest ways to do that would be to spring forward like 14, 15 years and you play as Lou. And getting to kind of see how the world is rebuilding after the Death Stranding. And kind of getting to see that through the eyes of like a teenage Lou, who's kind of, maybe she's being revered as like, maybe she and Sam are kind of being revered as, I mean, even though at the end of the game, right, they go off like with no intent to ever return. And so maybe she's like fallen back into myth now. And I don't know, I think there's a lot of cool angles they could play if they go from you being Lou this time. And maybe it's kind of Last of Us in that, you know, Sam is now older and maybe he's in parts of the game.
Okay.
And not necessarily.
I feel like Kojima, now that he's free from a major publisher, wouldn't want to make a sequel.
Yeah.
For his games.
That's the thing is, yeah, I don't think Death Stranding needs a sequel, but if I'm going to envision one in my head, I would say like don't it's not even about delivering packages anymore. It's a totally different type of Strand experience, Charlie.
Whoa.
Because a Strand type gameplay does not necessarily mean carrying packages. You know, there's different ways to involve strands and connect people. And
Okay.
but I would be interested. I would like to play as Lou because I mean you're playing as an older bridge baby in Death Stranding 1, so to get to play as the bridge baby that you thought was the bridge baby in the flashbacks, but to actually get to play as that, so I think that would be cool. But not like, so like have a huge jump of time, but not have her be like this kind of like hardened person like Sam was necessarily, but I'm sure whatever Kojima, I'm sure whatever Kojima comes up with is going to be great. I'm there for it 100%. I love Death Stranding. It was awesome.
I'm interested in whatever Kojima does next, even though I didn't particularly care for how Death Stranding ended.
Did you have the same problem as me in that you just didn't appreciate that it turned into a big like info dump at the end?
I mean, definitely that, but I also didn't really have much of an interest in the characters in general.
Oh, really? Because I loved like, well, I mean, Die Hardman was just incredible. Oh, I forgot what I was doing.
Don't forget you're playing Mario.
Yeah, I thought I was back playing River King again.
No, I mean, Die Hardman was fine, and obviously Cliffhanger was the best character in that game, I think. But
For me, it was Die
most
Hardman, I think. But
okay, well, there you go. I don't really feel like he was in it enough, other than that info dump at the end, to really be meaningful. But most of the characters, like Mama and Fragile, and was the other guy?
Hartman
The
or Dead Man?
No, I'm thinking of Dead Man. Didn't really care for them, to be honest. Didn't really interest me. Sam was fine enough as a silent protagonist. He had his reasons,
Mm-hmm.
but I just didn't really draw anything from the story they were telling with those characters for the most part. But it's fine. The game was still fun enough to play.
You know, a possible Death Stranding 2 is so far away, Charlie. There are many games that are far away. And there's something that's coming at the end of next month, right? That's going to show us about some of those future games.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple things, to be honest, really. I put up a link to talk about the Future Games show, which already happened in June, but they're going to do another one at the end of August. That was mostly PC games ranging from indie to AA size. I think it's interesting that they're doing this again right around Gamescom. And rumored, supposedly, the second or however many number they're going to do Xbox and PlayStation events are all sort of rumored around August.
Mm-hmm.
So sounds like the news feed is never going to end, and we're just going to keep getting this kind of information in perpetuity.
Is it starting to tire you out?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
I felt that way. Did you watch the fighting game Roundtable thing last night?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, so I watched it. It was restreamed. So it was in Japan. They got people from SNK, Arika, Koei Tecmo, Capcom, and Bamco, and I think that's everyone who was there. And they it was just, they said there were going to be announcements, and then they sat around for an hour talking about artificial intelligence and how they choose characters for the games. And Harada was talking about how, and I'm going to be misremembering this because I was watching a stream of a stream of a stream, Charlie. So this streamed,
always the best way to get info.
This streamed in Japan with everyone around the table, or, you know, the Zoom call table, and then they.
Oh, it was just like a Zoom call?
It was a Zoom
Not
call, yeah.
Okay, I was picturing like just back-to-back video feeds of the devs. You're saying like those however many devs were all just in a sequence?
Yeah, so they were all there, and then there was a Japanese host who was talking to them, and then Bandai Namco US restreamed with two guys who weren't doing one-to-one translation, but were providing commentary on what was being said, talking about what was being said, having their own conversation. And then on top of that, I watched Eris restream all of this, so he was talking over it. So a lot of the details I'm a little fuzzy on, but Harada was talking about, we keep talking about rollback netcode, which I am still not sure what it means. I'm still under the impression that it is about some AI predicting what you're going to do, as Billy first said in that episode, which is wrong, but that is because I've never been corrected on it. It's still in my head of what it is.
And it's correcting the timing of the inputs, you know, prioritizing the actual input timing over the visual process.
Mhm.
So if a packet of your button presses gets delayed, in a normal game, it would be cut off just to keep the flow of visual quality. So one person would have priority of their timing, most likely, depending on
Mhm.
how the server's set up. But with rollback, it's actually comparing the process. So it might look like there's a skip in some frames in the game, but it's going to keep the actual time that the buttons were pressed in order, which is better for players, but not if you're a spectator.
So I think Harada commented on that angle of it and said it had some the reason Tekken that they could implement netcode at any time, but I think the reason why it doesn't is it has something to do with the animations.
Yeah,
And this is where
I can
Billy
see
would
that.
chime in, who probably did watch it as well, and would go,
He,
"No,
he probably
actually,
knows
it's
more than
this."
us.
Yeah. So Harada talked. He did address netcode. But anyways, this went on for an hour, and then they finally got to the reveals, right? And I'm watching it, of course, because I'm like, I got my wallet ready, and I'm like, I'm about to buy Tekken if they announce that Kiryu's in this game, which didn't happen. They announced like some, I don't know, some swordsman or something on Katsuragi or something. I don't know. Someone who I guess has a history with Tekken who's going to be in the game. I don't care. It wasn't Kiryu. But they did talk about how they're doing season 4, and so they're improving a lot of different gamer friendly, consumer friendly stuff they're doing for the game. And one of the things they're
Okay.
doing is that it will tell you if your opponent is on Wi-Fi, so that you can just
That's
straight
good.
up be like, I'm not gonna play against them. And then they said that 50% of online Tekken players are Wi-Fi.
That doesn't really surprise me, to be
Yeah,
honest.
I don't know. That's
Does it mean is
insane.
that like over all consoles and PC
I mean,
or
I would doubt that.
everything?
I would doubt that if it is PC players that they make up even a sizable number. I mean, there's not that many people who game on laptops, even though that is an option. And so
Yeah,
most people who do game are hardwired in, like you and I are.
I would hope so,
Yeah,
at least.
yeah. So I mean, it's probably more of your people on PS4. And is Tekken even on Xbox, or is it PlayStation exclusive or
I think it
console
might
exclusive?
be console exclusive.
Yeah. So, but you probably have
Yeah.
a ton of PS4 players who are on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean that doesn't really surprise me. Console people don't want to have to deal with that.
yeah. Well, now you don't have to deal with them either, Charlie, if you were playing
Hooray.
Tekken. So,
I have taken if they had a character I cared about like Kiryu, be
yeah.
cool. Do you think though they're waiting? So you said there's a new season, so there's still a
Mhm.
chance. Do you think they're waiting for Yakuza 7 time to announce something like that?
Well, see, so we know when the game's coming out. We know it's coming out November 13th, and the game's
Mhm.
been out in Japan since I think it came out like the same week as Kakarot, so like early January, mid January.
Okay.
So it's been out for a while. So I mean, maybe they're gonna try to time it with the U.S. release. But then if it's Kiryu, uh, Kiryu's not the focus of Yakuza 7, so it could be Ichiban. But I mean, I think everyone would prefer Kiryu, so hopefully that's the way that they would go. I'd be upset
It's
if it weren't Kiryu.
I'm gonna tell you to prepare to be upset.
Yeah, I know. There's some new Guilty Gear characters coming. Couldn't tell you. Leo, something. He looked kind of cool.
Whoa.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
know.
know
I
anything
don't know
about
if that
Guilty
means anything to
Gear
you.
either.
Uh, and then it was like Dragon Ball Fighters is having a show where they're gonna have some more announcements. Because you know they're adding Master Roshi to the
There's
game, right?
oh no.
Yeah, so there's still
There's still
characters coming.
huh.
Yeah, that is a games as a
That's
service. Speaking of, yeah,
yeah. Interesting.
you have
I guess they know they can't top what they made in that game, so they're just gonna add as many characters as they can.
I uh every time that DLC goes on sale, I'm tempted to buy it. And then I stop myself and I say, now, Kenny, hold on. You don't play this game to begin with. And I don't think getting 2 different Brolys and a Gogeta is going to make you want to play Dragon Ball FighterZ. So, I don't know. It's cool. I watch it from afar. I like watching all of the, like, the stuff that's the Arc System Works effect in the game, you know. They were also at this thing, by the way. And then Harada asked them, he said, who's the... Because, you know, Arc System Works makes games for other publishers as well. You know, they've made games for Bandai Namco, and I don't know if they do stuff with Capcom or whatever, but Harada asked them, he said, which publisher is the most difficult to work with? And then they all had a good laugh, because it's not a question that they were ever going to... There's ever a possibility they were going to answer, you know? So.
Yeah, maybe we'll get that Tekken crossover game someday.
Well, we had a Tekken crossover game, and it ended up with people just crouching in the corner, right? Because wasn't there no chip damage in that game or something? And so you would just time out?
I think... I don't really know. I know there was a gem system that wasn't that great, but...
Well, because you know, Billy would always grouse about these things, right? And so he's how I would stay in the know. And I'm pretty sure that it was the reason that people didn't latch onto that game was that there was something in it which allowed for most high-level matches to just end in timeouts. Because you could just back yourself into a corner, and I don't know if it didn't have chip damage or what, but I guess it was something they never really patched out of the experience. But you know,
well,
we're not playing Capcom or Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Charlie. We're not playing Death Stranding 2. We're not playing Tekken. So what are you playing?
Well, I mean, I already talked about Superhot.
Yeah.
Finishing that up, and I also finally finished Final Fantasy VII Remake.
I'm a little worried, Charlie, because I'm worried you didn't like it.
I don't think I understand enough to know whether I liked it or not. So I even knowing some of what ends up happening in this game, I don't really follow what happened in this game. At least at the ending. I mean, it was okay most of the way through, but
it's final 2
there's
hours.
so many things. Yeah, there's so many things that are unexplained for someone like me who has no idea. I haven't played any Final Fantasy games other than I think I played Crystal Chronicles.
Okay.
It's like the only Final Fantasy game I've really played.
Was the GameCube one? Where you could plug Game Boys into it? It's on Switch now, right?
I think if not now, it's soon-ish. Yeah. But that one was fine. But I don't really know anything about the Final Fantasy world or lore or whatever.
Well, so Final Fantasy VII world there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's the thing. Like, I never really understood, like, are all these games completely separate?
So, yes, and apparently no. At least Final Fantasy VII, you know, Final Fantasy VII is like an umbrella of games. So in the early 2000s, they started what was, I think it was called the Final Fantasy VII Project, and that's when they made Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus, Crisis Core. I think there's a couple phone games, and so you have that umbrella. Then Final Fantasy VII Remake is also in that umbrella of Final Fantasy VII Project. It was like I guess it was planned out a long time ago that Remake was going to follow the story beats that it does and is part of this experience, and that's why there's a lot of callbacks directly to Advent Children in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I was going so anyways, so it does apparently link to Final Fantasy X, in which there is a character named Shinra in that game who appears. So you know when you're in the museum in Remake, which was
Mhm.
awesome, by the way. I loved that part. Did you like the part where? Okay, so in one of the pictures, it shows a guy who looks just like the Shinra character from Final Fantasy X. And then when Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett are in that like VR room or whatever it is, and there's that FMV that plays.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was cool.
when they show what everyone looked like way in the past, and they're all using magic and stuff, look just like the way it's handled in Final Fantasy X. So there's an implication that Final Fantasy X takes place in the far past uh, of Final Fantasy VII.
Okay.
So
Hmm. Okay. Well, either way, that
so
doesn't
yeah,
really help me
those two
because I
games are
got no
connected.
idea what
Yeah.
any. I mean, I just mean, excuse me. I
Yeah.
just mean basic stuff like, I can piece it together, but they never explain like what's a Moogle, what's a
Yeah.
chocobo,
No, you don't need to
what's
know. Those are just
who, who's this cat with a towel and a crown on his head that comes out as you're escaping from
yeah.
the pillar.
Yeah. He's a party
Who
member that will be in the next game.
okay, or who's a Zack that shows up in the last 2 minutes of the game?
Yeah.
Like, I get it's a lot of callbacks. It's a lot of. I keep thinking of the only memorable part of Other M when that that member of the squad comes out and to Samus and says, "Remember me?" That's what this whole game
Not
feels
familiar.
like. It's like, "Hey, you remember this?"
Hmm.
Like, no, I don't know any of this.
Yeah, there's so do you know what the ghosts were doing, right?
Yeah, I mean that they explained that part well
Yeah.
enough because Aerith tells you about the whispers.
Yeah, so like
Um,
when Barrett gets stabbed and dies, that doesn't happen in the original game. And so the whispers come and they undo it
mhm.
because that's not his fate.
Yeah, and I guess that was the other thing is I don't have a frame of reference for what actually happened in the first game to know or have any impact on what was different in
There's
this one.
one of the best parts where the whispers interact. And this is so you don't care about spoilers for the original game, do you? In fact, this might help you appreciate Remake. Are,
I guess.
okay. So
I don't know what's there to spoil.
Cloud is not a soldier.
Yeah, I mean, they hinted at that in
Yeah.
this one.
He
Yeah.
has Zack's memories. He's basically been tricked into thinking he's Zack. And uh,
Okay.
there's a part where the guy, what's the guy's name who he's like the creepy mad scientist guy.
Hojo.
Yeah. There's a part where
Yeah.
he's like about to say like he's about to reveal to Cloud that Cloud's not a soldier, and then the whispers take him away because Cloud's
Yeah.
it's not his fate to find that out yet. And I think that's like one
Okay.
of the coolest things that the whispers do there.
Interesting. Okay.
So there's anytime, yeah, man, anytime the whispers are showing up, right? Like you can just take what they're doing as being like spooky ghosts doing weird stuff, right? But everything they do is important. And so yeah, there's two layers to it, right? There's you could play it just being like these ghosts are doing ghost things is weird. But if you have that kind of background, you're like, oh man, I see there something was supposed to happen, something was different was about to happen, but then the ghost came and so it didn't happen. And
Mm. It's very like yeah, I could tell that with some of the later stuff, but it's very hard to know. Like in the beginning, when Cloud first meets Aerith and they're interacting there, like would have no idea what was supposed to be going on there.
I
Um,
don't remember why the ghosts interact there, but it's yeah, I mean it's not something important, obviously.
yeah. So I guess it's more just like yeah, I just don't really. It was interesting,
Yeah,
and I think I liked most of it, but I don't really know what's going on. Um, like with all the Sephiroth stuff, So that's another thing is he's never really explained in this game either, other than Cloud and Tifa knew him from before, and maybe he was in Cloud's army squad at some point
So
and left.
Sephiroth is he was a guy, but then he can be resurrected, right? Like true Sephiroth can be resurrected through anyone that carries Genova's cells. And
Okay.
this
Is that what
happens,
those cloaked guys with the numbered tattoos are?
yeah, who are like reunion. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
people who Sephiroth can come back to life through.
Okay.
And what happens in Advent Children is that there are 3 Genova kids who they're anyways, one of them gets like Genova's head or something and then becomes Sephiroth. And so then Cloud fights Sephiroth again, and the implication Sephiroth at the end of Advent Children, Sephiroth says something like, I'm gonna always be coming, I'll always be haunting you, or I'll always be with you, or something to Cloud. And then so the idea of Remake as a whole is that Sephiroth has somehow gained the ability to go back in time. And he goes back in time because he I guess he yeah, so there's okay, so I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and then there's a you know Easy Allies, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Easy Allies did a 2-hour spoiler cast on this game where they had Maximilian come on, and Maximilian loves Final Fantasy VII, and so Max walks them through like the deep levels of lore that are in this game and how all the chicanery works. But it's something like, yeah, Sephiroth goes back in time because he wants to change Destiny, but Destiny is this force that keeps fighting against everything, though it doesn't want to let fate change. So he basically pushes Cloud, Aerith, and Aerith is tied into the planet, so she's, I forget the planet's called like Gaia or something. She's tied in and she knows, she's like kind of aware that some time stuff is going on.
Yeah, you
And
could tell that she knew something was up.
yeah,
At least.
she's like a higher power. And so Sephiroth wants to change Destiny and change fate, but he can't do it alone. And so he's pushing Cloud's group forward to do it, to destroy fate, so that then he can basically have free reign at that point, and his future is no longer written. And so there's stuff like there's lots of musical cues in this game that are like musical cues and like dialogue that are straight out of the other games and that mean a lot if you had those experiences. But the general idea is that, yeah, Sephiroth went back in time and is pushing the whole game. He is remaking the timeline. So it's not a remake of Final Fantasy VII. It is Sephiroth trying to remake the future, right? So it should have been called Final Fantasy VII : Remake. So there's a lot of people who get upset about the name of the game, and I don't think necessarily they played it or understood the game if they're upset, because remake is the core drive for Sephiroth.
Okay.
But this is a sequel to Final Fantasy VII, which is probably,
that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess I thought it was more like a different dimensional version of Sephiroth or something like that. But that makes sense.
And so, like at the end, Charlie Sheen is alive, right?
Yeah,
what's
I don't
his
know
name?
how believable that is, but whatever.
But
Biggs.
Biggs. He died in Final Fantasy VII in the original game, but then you see him; he's alive in Remake. So that's like signaling that Destiny has changed. Now, where a lot of the confusion comes in, and that where no one is really quite sure, people have theories, but no one's really quite sure what's going on, is at the end, when Zack is walking with Cloud into Midgar.
Yeah, that did.
Yeah,
explain, please.
Because Zack is supposed to die there, And then that's when Cloud like has a mental breakdown and basically supplants Zack's memories into his own and believes that he was, because Zack was the
Okay.
soldier and Zack
Is
did all this stuff.
is that what that cutscene with Tifa as a cowgirl is supposed to be? Like some memory of Zack?
Well, Cloud was
I,
also there
okay.
at that time.
Dang.
But yeah, Cloud was like, man, I don't remember if he was like in training to become a soldier, but never did. Because there is that one guy who does recognize Cloud when you're in some building or
Yeah,
something.
and yeah, it's towards the end in the Shinra lore levels.
Yeah,
There's a
and
soldier that recognizes him.
yeah, and the implication being that that soldier was another guy who was in Crisis Core, who was someplace with Cloud, and so yeah, this game is like, see, I'm not about to go and play the original Final Fantasy VII. I don't think I'm not going to play Crisis Core. I'm not
Yeah, I
going
don't think
to.
I'm gonna do that either.
I'm not going to play Dirge of Cerberus, which technically takes place after Advent Children. So the timeline goes Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, Advent Children, Dirge of Cerberus. And then I think the phone game is even earlier than Crisis Core, but then Remake is a sequel to all of that, in which you have.
Is Final Fantasy VII the only game that has this many side pieces of content, or they all have something like this that I just never knew about?
So Final Fantasy VII is so. Assuming we're not considering Kingdom Hearts as a piece of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, I'm not counting. Yeah, that's different.
Final Fantasy X before 13. So Final Fantasy X was the first game to receive a numbered sequel. Final Fantasy X. Because you had 10-2, which was about Yuna, Rika. I don't remember her name. And then like a girl who may have been named Pain. I'm not sure.
Sure.
And it's about them trying to like find Titus's spirit or something. Because spoilers for Final Fantasy X. Titus was a dream the whole time. He didn't actually exist. Final Fantasy X goes some places, man. That game's great. But then Final Fantasy 13 came out, and then you had Final Fantasy 13, Final Fantasy 13 2, Lightning Returns, and then Final Fantasy 13 3, Lightning Returns again. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy 7 has the most.
Because I always knew it was one of the. Yeah, I always knew it was one of the most beloved ones. I guess I just didn't realize how much of it there was.
Yeah. But it's cool, and I really like the way that Final Fantasy VII really stuck to their guns, being like, "Yeah, this is a remake. Yeah, it's a remake. Never played Final Fantasy VII? You can play this because for 95% of the game, it is a remake."
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll have to look up a list of actually everything that was different, but
I mean, it's you remember like all of this game that you played is the first 5 hours of the original Final Fantasy VII.
So I guess that's the other thing. Like, so now that you're saying Destiny isn't written anymore.
Yeah.
How closely are they going to actually stick with the original plot, and how many games are they actually going to make out of this?
Yeah. So overall, Charlie, how did you? I kind of took us off the rails here, trying to explain some stuff to you. But overall, how did you feel when you rolled credits and it was over?
I mean, very confused.
Did you feel satisfied?
No, not at all. I'd say bewildered is the best way to put it. The majority of that game felt like it was filler or fluff. Like it could have easily been cut in half and just been a more serviceable linear experience. I did like a lot of the side quests in chapter 14 where they all sort of interacted and meshed a bit better. Like you had to go to one area to pick up something, and then that was also the same place that you could start a different side quest.
Mm.
But most of the other ones were just fetch quests, so they weren't really that interesting. I mean, I like the setting and the world of what's going on, but I didn't have any nostalgia for the characters, so most of them didn't really interest me. For most of the game, I kind of hated Barrett because he was way too over the top.
Yeah, he is.
Like,
He
he's
reminded
supposed to
me.
be the leader of this local group, and he just announces over the radio, "Hey, we're gonna enter the shooter building."
Yeah. He
Like,
reminded me a lot of, and I'm saying this because of like the boisterous nature of the character. But I've been reading Naruto, and like he reminds me a lot of Killer Bee in certain ways, in that he's just so over the top. And
okay, I feel like even Killer Bee has more strategic instinct than Barrett,
yeah,
though. He can get serious at some points.
well, Barrett does
Um,
too, I think, especially when it comes to his daughter.
yeah, I guess I don't know. Maybe it's just the dub or something, but it the line reading never really stuck with me. It felt very off.
Mm-hmm. For him or for everyone?
Uh, Mostly for him, but I'd say a decent amount of lines that didn't really land with me. I'm fine with Cloud and Aerith,
Mm-hmm.
though. They seemed like they were the best characters in that
Yeah,
game, to be honest.
yeah. I've talked about I have as much nostalgia for Final Fantasy VII as one person can have, having not played it. But I never really understood the appeal of Aerith, because to me she was
Mm.
always just a character who died. Like, to me that was her
Yeah,
thing.
that's the only thing I ever knew about her was, oh yeah, this chick dies in this game, and it's really sad.
Yeah, and so if I'm like, oh, who's best girl? It's Tifa. But after playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm like, no, Aerith is awesome.
Does do we know if Jesse's still alive at this point? Since Wedge and Biggs made it,
Did
I
Wedge
would
make it?
assume. I guess that's another. So he was last in the Shinra building, and then got sucked up by the Whispers, and
Yeah,
never see him after that.
yeah, I'm not
I'm
sure.
assuming Jesse is dead because she collapsed in the pillar, and then that exploded.
Which especially sucks, like
So.
after all the stuff you do, where you go to her house and
Mm.
yeah,
I guess that's why they did so much of that, was to make you care about someone actually dying.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's just a lot of questions, and confusion. I
Mm-hmm.
do feel like the ending section went on too long. Like
At which point?
in Hojo's lab,
Okay.
that area was too long and repetitive. Like I was hoping for more of kind of how they did the chapter 18 fights, where you're switching back and forth between the two groups because you have enough people. Like I feel like,
Hard disagree on my end.
okay,
That
well I feel
that
like
fight with where you're Barrett and Aerith and you're fighting the whatever it is, I hated that fight.
Barrett and Aerith.
You're fighting the big thing. There's all these pillars. I cheesed that out so
um,
hard, man.
I guess I don't know.
I
Do
don't
you
remember
mean
the.
in Hojo's lab or
This is
in
after Hojo's
the
lab.
in the Destiny crumbling area?
No, it's before everyone
Or
reunites. Where you're split up into two groups, and then Barrett and
but
Aerith are
Barrett,
together.
was it Barrett? I thought it was Barrett and Cloud, and then Tifa and Aerith for most
Mm,
of that.
no, I'm pretty sure it was Barrett and Aerith, and then,
Okay. Do you mean like the
anyways.
robots that like popped up between the different holes in the ground? Or
No, it was the robot who he had like this mega blast you could do, and you had to go hide behind the like
oh, okay,
debris.
that one. No, that was fine.
Oh,
I
I
didn't have a
cheesed the
problem
hell
with
out of
that.
that.
I mean, they give you all that cover to
Yeah,
do. what annoyed me was more, um, I guess I'm just expecting. Like I think I understand that most Final Fantasies traditionally you just have three people in your party at once at most
Hmm.
for your battles, but I don't really feel like they have to limit themselves to that anymore. Like I felt like it would have been a lot better in the Hojo Lab area to just have more dynamic. Okay, you have these four, sort of five people that should be doing stuff at once instead of just switching back and forth between them and basically doing the same thing over and over again.
Hmm.
You could have had a more dynamic, constant switching back and forth to activate switches while you're fighting, that sort of thing. Just something to make it feel more dynamic and like actual evolution, like they did with the other parts of the combat. Because that's the whole chapter 17 section got way too tedious
Hmm.
once you started doing that area. But no, that robot was fine. I really didn't like the motorcycle robot fight.
At
That
the end,
felt
right before everything
y
goes crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
because the controls for that aren't really very good.
Yeah. It took me
And
two tries.
it went on way too long.
Hmm.
Um, I I also had to redo the whatever the Destiny monster was. Like, you got the 3 colored
Hmm.
ones and then they combine. I died to that the first time because it just did that AoE attack that I wasn't ready for, so it took out everyone but one of my party, and I could never build up my ATB enough to revive someone and keep them alive long enough
Hmm.
to not have to revive them again in like 10 seconds, so I eventually died, but
I don't
I felt
recall.
like this I felt like the second time I just got lucky that I got my summon out in time to negate those problems.
Hmm.
And I guess I used barrier as well. I hadn't been using barrier up until that point, but
I don't
I
recall
think
having trouble with that one, but I may have been pretty overleveled by that point.
yeah, I guess I was like at 35 by the end,
Hmm.
something like that. And I did most of the side quests. So I don't really feel like I was rushing forward, but it definitely felt like at times in the combat, like, oh, if you don't have this materia, you're gonna have a really hard time. And
That's one of my.
it's really annoying you can't just like spend an ATB to change out your materia or equipment or something like that. Like it doesn't make any sense.
That's probably my single biggest complaint with the combat is that when you go into battle, yeah, you're locked into whatever materia you have equipped, and it's
Mhm.
which is especially troublesome if it's a boss battle and you need like lightning, but all you have is blizzard or whatever set.
Yeah, especially when during the ending you're constantly splitting up your party and you don't know
Yeah,
who's gonna need what until you already play it. Like it doesn't feel like a if it could be improved, definitely.
yeah. Now,
But for the most part, I liked it.
what'd you think of the final Sephiroth fight? Because I freaking loved it.
And it was
I
pretty wild
it was
for sure.
I f- I loved like having to read Sephiroth's attacks to know how to react to it, and even though I was playing like super careful because he would take out so much of your life, uh, it was just like I don't know, I was my hands were sweating and but I was so like it was so cool to be doing like an iconic fight like this, right? Like Sephiroth is one of the most well-known video game villains, and to be getting to fight him for the first time in my life, I was just
Mm.
like so jazzed up, and I loved it. Awesome fight.
I hmm, I don't know if I'd call it awesome. It was, I mean, visually, sure, that was really cool.
Hmm.
Um, for the first section where you're just fighting him as Cloud, I didn't really get any read on how to deal with him. I just
Hmm.
ended up using lightning a bunch and spamming the attack button, waiting for my ATB to refill.
Mm,
Honestly,
yeah.
that wasn't
He
very
has
good.
so few openings.
Yeah,
And yeah, you really just have to wait for your limit breakers to come back.
that was another problem with the uh, Son of Shinra fight on the rooftop. Was yeah, you can sort of parry him occasionally, but
Hmm.
usually he'll just mess you up.
So I had
So
trouble with that fight, and then I looked up a guide, and like once I was reading about the pro strats for fighting him, there's
Mhm.
actual like yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of strats with a number of things you can do in this game. It's
Yeah.
just not really well. I feel like they don't train you on the combat enough, or at least the variety of things you can do.
Hmm.
Um, and I mean, it's hard to do that when you have so many different options. But it's just weird seeing that juxtaposed against them giving you a tutorial on how to use a grappling hook, which is basically just a button
Yeah,
press.
just
Like
look up.
they're constantly throwing tutorial stuff in your face for things that should be very obvious if you've gotten this far in the game. But they don't spend enough time in the combat unless you go into the side coliseum and VR areas.
Did you do any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I went back and did a couple fights, but honestly, the combat's fun, but it wasn't fun enough for me to want to spend time doing that.
Now, I think one of the worst fights in the game is that stupid house, Hell
Okay,
House.
I
That was
didn't.
a fight. Took me like 45 minutes.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think it took a while. I didn't really have a problem with it compared to some other bosses, but that was interesting.
Yeah. I like how
Um,
much commentary there was from the announcers because I don't think,
mhm.
at least when I was playing it, I feel like I remember thinking to myself like they haven't repeated themselves once.
Yeah, I mean, it might have repeated a couple times, but it was pretty good about how dynamic that commentary was
Yeah.
for sure. Uh, that was probably one of the more impressive parts of the game for me.
Hmm.
Um,
There's just
yeah,
there's I think Final Fantasy VII was for me was just such a magical experience, and I think it's something I still think about a lot, like I did with Death Stranding.
mhm.
Uh, it's a game that promotes a lot of discussion.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
like Charlie, the three Destiny bosses before they combine their move sets are the three villains from Advent Children.
Okay.
So there's like all these little things that are just such, which is why I really, really recommend that you listen to the Easy Allies spoiler cast,
Okay.
because you're done with the game, right? So you've appreciated it as much as you're gonna appreciate it, right? But
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that there were a decent amount of scenarios that you had some choice in to
yeah,
slightly change the story, but I'm probably not going to replay it
yeah.
until maybe the next one comes out to get a refresher.
But I really recommend listening to it because they go deep into all the stuff, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
Which is why like I cannot stop comparing this game to like the rebuilds of Ava. It's like I hope the
Yeah.
rebuilds of Ava are like this, that they're a sequel reboot. There's timeline meddling going on, which is why it's different.
Yeah, I can definitely see that now
Yeah.
for sure.
So, game of the year?
No,
No.
not even close. Um, but I appreciated it. I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see where it goes, even though I mean, I kind of know obviously Sephiroth's going to get it in the end, even if this is a change in Destiny. They're not going to change it up that much. But
The trick is that Final Fantasy Remake 3 is a games as a service that never ends.
yeah, so I guess that's my question. How many games do you think this is going to be? If this was only like 10% of the game for this
Uh,
run?
I'm not really familiar with the pacing of the original, right? Like I know the broad strokes of the story. Uh, I would guess you could do it in another 2 games.
Okay.
If you're really adhering to story beats, right? And if you're not going to start, if the rest of the game won't be as fleshed out as Midgar was. Midgar was heavily fleshed out because they had to. Their vision was they were going to take this part of the game, and this part of the game needs to be a whole game. So they took 5 hours and split it out into 50 or however long. Ellie, stop.
Yeah.
Leave it. So if they're not gonna extend the rest of the game, they could probably do it in 2.
I guess that would be my hope. Would be 3 games, but if they try to do it anything like this one, but who knows how many it would be.
I mean, Final Fantasy VII is not that long of a game, right? Like, we think JRPGs nowadays, and we think minimum you have to, like, no life it and go for 120 hours to beat the game. But Final Fantasy VII was not like that, and I think it was like a 40-ish hour game.
Okay.
So, even if you took the rest of that game and then you still put on some, right, like sensible padding or however you wanted to do it, some fun side quests, different story stuff because of Sephiroth, you could still, right, like you could do the rest of the game in 1 game, but I feel like because they took so much time in Midgar, you should space it out a little bit more with the next one. And
yeah, I guess that's
make
kind of
two.
the thing. Because they padded this one out so much, it's going to feel weird if the next 2 are more linear.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. As long as they like stop filling it with pointless padding, like switching over to Aerith and walking 10 feet in between cutscenes,
Yeah.
kind of padding, and just do more of like some of the stuff in Wall Market that I'm sure wasn't in the original game was fun.
Yeah, like none of that
It-
was.
Yeah.
Stuff with like Chocobo Sam Elliott, and
Mhm.
I don't think he was even in
Yeah.
the original game at all.
Interesting.
I don't know
But
if the lady was either.
then how did the cloud dress up happen? You
I
just
think the bee
rummaged
guy
through
helps you or something. I don't know. I haven't played it, but
Okay. Hmm.
again,
Yeah,
I know
but
broad strokes.
Yeah, basically just being a little more selective in what they want to add on.
Yeah.
Um, I get people who are nostalgic for it just wanted to breathe in that world because it's an interesting world for sure.
Mhm.
Like the music, the setting, and some of the characters are great, so I understand why they'd want to do that. But I would hope they're a little more selective next time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I love talking about this game, Charlie, and I could go on
Yeah.
for hours talking about
I
Final
know.
Fantasy VII if you don't stop me. So, what else have
Okay,
you been?
well, not. I mean, that's it.
That's it.
There was a lot of Final Fantasy this week, so
Yeah,
that's pretty
gotcha.
much it. What about you?
Really not very much at all. I played Last of Us 2 for like 15 minutes, maybe.
Wow.
And I don't think I'm platinuming that game anymore, Charlie. I don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
I
It's a
hope you
lot.
don't have anyone else in the wing who was wanting to borrow your game because I might have it for a while.
Not really. I might go back to it at some point, but
It's
okay.
My motivation to play it is just like okay. So also I'm also reading Naruto, and I'm in like I only have 11 volumes left, so I'm in the home stretch, right? Like what just happened. Spoilers for Naruto. Is Itachi and Sasuke teamed up and immobilized Kabuto. So Itachi used the Inazami, I think is the time loop one. He put Kabuto in that, and
Yeah.
he just said, "I'm going to end the Edo Tensei," and then the book ended. So then I took a nap, took a shower, and then we did the show.
Okay. Wow.
So
Uh,
I've been really into Naruto right now, and Charlie, if you're interested, I do want to perhaps do a video where I just talk about Naruto because again, 72 volumes is a lot of story.
yeah, it is.
So I don't. If I talk about it here, we're gonna spend 2 hours talking about Naruto, and so I would
Yeah.
like
I
to
just
do
like,
that
yeah.
in a separate setting where we just have like I would like to just dissect my thoughts on Naruto because I have a lot of thoughts about it that uh, about that series, and I think it would be fun content as well. So
That's fair. That's fair.
I've been really into that, and so that has kind of impacted. To bring it back around to what I'm playing, that has impacted me playing Last of Us 2 because my time is being spent on Naruto instead.
Mhm.
And then I do my Ring Fit adventure. I think I went too hard on it, right? So jogging is the best way in real life and in this game is the best way to lose calories, right? Jogging or different kind of aerobic activities like biking and whatnot. So I play custom mode and half of my workout is jogging. And I did one day where it was like 20 minutes, but I did 225 calories in that period of time, and I think I pulled something in my calf. So I've been kind of resting since then. I plan to get back into it maybe tomorrow or Monday, but so I haven't really been playing anything at all. I've just been reading Naruto.
Yeah, I guess I was gonna ask you, do you have any problem with the Velcro leg strap for that game? Does it ever get too constraining? Because I feel
So
like sometimes it does for me.
no, I probably have a lot more leg fat than you though. So when I put it on, right, like it said don't put it on like high up on your thigh, but I feel like in instances where it's been in my mid thigh, it doesn't read right. So I mean, mine is like way up my thigh,
Yeah,
and
it definitely has problems with squats reading correctly,
yeah,
for
yeah, it
sure.
was like
Uh,
24 points, and I'm like, screw you, 24 points. That was a deep squat. So
yeah,
I keep mine pulled up pretty high, and then it's the results are pretty good.
yeah. My problem is I have to have it on too tight, especially when I'm running, or else it's just going to slip off my leg unless I'm wearing the right kind of cotton shorts that'll let it stick a little better.
So are
But
you okay? So with your strap, Charlie, are you making skin contact?
I never let my strap touch my skin.
Okay,
No.
that might be it. In my case, I I pull up my boxer briefs, and that thing is way up my thigh on skin.
Oh, you're full bearing it? Wow.
I'm full
Well,
bearing it, so that might be giving me some better
interesting.
friction,
Hmm.
with the leg
Okay.
hairs going against it. So it's
Okay.
Charlie. Here's the thing:
Got to think about that.
no one else is gonna wear your leg strap. So you operate however you need to.
That's fair. I don't plan on sharing my strap with other people.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah. Chuck
Okay.
strap.
Yes.
Oh. But yeah, mine's way up high on my thigh, just to get it to read right. But I don't know, I think my calf is probably good now, but it's already 6:15 now. I'm not doing it today. So,
Oh,
but yeah, not really playing much. And I think that probably brings us to the end of the show, Charlie. What do you think?
yeah. I
Would
think I don't know what I think. I think you need to brush up on your Game Boy skills for
Yeah,
next time.
I I never figured out how to fish. To
Got
be
to see that
fair,
bear. Yeah.
I, I thought it was going to be a lot easier to play that game specifically and then talk to you about news. Not that it was not that easy. And then Mario was a little easier, but then I kept dying, and so I turned my Game Boy off, and I'm still holding it, right? The cam still going, but it's been off as you can see. So
Yeah. I mean, I thought that's what you were doing because you couldn't do ring fit. You were just using your arm,
yeah,
long periods of stretching there.
got a thumb workout.
Yeah.
So all right, I'm gonna take us out. I'm gonna do. Do you want to do a Billy impression? Do you want
I
to do
can't.
his goodbye?
That'll get messed up in my
Oh, that's
mic
true. Yeah.
filter. Yeah.
So I'm gonna do my best Billy impression of him doing an impression of whatever the hell that is that he usually does. So I'm going to do that, and that's going to take us out. So goodbye!